Good evening and welcome to the Southbridge reorganizational meeting on July 2nd, 2013. Let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. So tonight is the reorganization where we're going to elect our officers. Before we start that, I just want to explain to the public how it works. The person that does the reorg is someone who's been a long-standing member of the committee, and that would be myself with 8 years, starting my 9th year tonight, and Dr. Domingo with 8 years, starting her 9th year. And we discussed amongst ourselves, and I will be doing the reorganizational meeting. So for further, we will start the election of officers. I will need a motion or nominations, please, for the chair. Do I have any nominations for the chair? Mrs. Donovan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to nominate Pat Woodruff, please.
Thank you. Is there any other nominations this evening? Any other nominations for chair this evening? Seeing none, we'll need a roll call vote, please, for the nomination of Pat Woodruff. Yep.
Mrs. Congdon?
No.
Dr. Domingo?
Abstained.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
5 yes, 1 no, 1 abstain.
Thank you. So passes. I will be a chair again this year, and I want to thank everyone. Before we move on, I want to welcome our new members this evening. We have Mrs. Quinney to the right of me and Mrs. Congdon to the left of me. So I want to welcome both of them to the meeting this evening and to the committee. So next we need a nomination for the vice chair. Do I have a nomination for the vice chair? Mrs. Donovan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to nominate Lauren McLaughlin.
Thank you. So we have a nomination for Mrs. McLaughlin. Is there any other nominations this evening? Any other nominations for vice chair this evening? Seeing none, we will have a roll call vote for the vice chair. Mrs. McLaughlin, Max?
Dr. Domingo?
Abstained.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
Abstain.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
5 yes, 2 abstain.
Thank you. So our new vice chair for this year will be Mrs. McLaughlin. So I'm going to have you exchange seats with Dr. O'Leary. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, ma'am.
I hope this is your right chair.
That's mine.
Make sure you get a good chair.
I know. Got a good chair. Thank you. Perfect. Next, we have a required vote for the secretary of the school committee, and normally the secretary of the school committee is the superintendent, so that would be Mr. Basan Neberko, but I still need the nominations for the voting. So do I have a nomination for Mr. Neberko? Okay, we have a nomination by Mrs. Donovan, and we don't need any other nominations because it is Mr. Neberko, so we'll just have a roll call vote on that, please.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Dr. Domingo?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you. Moving on to the recording secretary. Also, that is required vote for a nomination for recording secretary. We do the same way as the secretary. Dr. Domingo?
I will nominate Max Gullickson.
Thank you. Is there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call for Max Gullickson.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Dr. Domingo?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you. Congratulations, Max, for another year. Next, we'll move on to the day and time of regular meetings. First, I'll need a motion for a vote for the day of a regular school committee meeting. It's not really a nomination, it's just the day and the time, and usually it's Tuesday, so I just need a vote, a motion, a second, and then we vote the day. So, do I have a motion? Dr. D'Amico?
I'll make a motion the meetings be held on Tuesdays.
Second.
Thank you. So I have a motion, Dr. D'Amico, seconded by Dr. O'Leary. We have a roll call vote on that.
Dr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Dr. D'Amico?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you. Also, we'll need the time of commencement. We'll need a nomination or a motion. Dr. D'Amico?
I move that the meeting begin at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Second on that?
Second.
Dr. O'Leary? We'll have a roll call vote on that, please.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes?
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Dr. D'Amico?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you. Next, we'll do the subcommittees. There are 5. I'll list them, and we will need a required vote for those subcommittees as well. The members of the subcommittees will come later on. We don't put the members in this evening. So the first subcommittee would be policy. We have curriculum. We have collective bargaining and negotiations. We have budget, facilities, transportation, and we have communication, family, and community engagement subcommittee.
I make a motion, Madam Chair, that we adopt all of the committees.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mrs. McLaughlin. Do I have a second on that? By Mrs. Congdon. Thank you. So we'll have a roll call on all the committees.
Okay.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Dr. D'Amico?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you. Mrs. McLaughlin?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the subcommittee currently named Communication, Family, and Community Engagement, the committee still exists, but that the word communication be stricken and it be named Family and Community Engagement Subcommittee. The reason being is that that word communication, in addition to making the name of the committee lengthy and difficult for people to remember, also this year there was some misunderstanding of the role of our committee, and I think if we strike that out, it clarifies what we're trying to accomplish here.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion to change the last subcommittee to Family and Community Engagement Subcommittee. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Mrs. Congdon. Any other discussion on that? We'll have a roll call, please.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Dr. D'Amico?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you. Moving on to the acceptance of rules of order. We have a motion to accept the Roberts Rules of Order.
So moved.
Thank you. Motion, Dr. D'Amico, seconded by Dr. O'Leary. Do I have any other discussion on that? Mrs. McLaughlin?
Madam Chair, I would say that we would have to adopt Robert's Rules of Order newly revised.
Okay.
I read that in one of my books, that unless you adopt...
There is many copies of
Right,
it.
so you adopt the newly revised version.
All right, so
because-
it'll be the newly revised version of Robert Rules. Any other discussion on that? Seeing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Dr. D'Amico?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you. And now I need a motion for adjournment of the reorganizational meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. D'Amico. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Congdon. Do I have any discussion on that? Seeing none, we can just raise our hands for adjournment. All right, we'll adjourn, and we're going to move, I don't know if we need a minute or two, but we can move right into the next regular school committee meeting for this evening. Does anyone need a minute to reorganize, or are we set to go? We're set to go? All right. So, welcome to the Southbridge School Committee meeting, July 2nd, 2013. We don't need to do the Pledge of Allegiance again. We've already done that once, so I will skip the Pledge of Allegiance. But if there is any public input this evening, we'll have anyone from the public who's wishing to come and speak in front of us this evening? Anybody from the public? Seeing none, we'll move on. We'll call the meeting to order. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Dr. D'Amico?
Present.
Sorry.
Mrs. Donovan?
Present.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Present.
Dr. O'Leary?
Present.
Mrs. Quinney?
Present.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Present.
7 present.
Thank you. Next, we'll have the approval of the minutes, regular school committee minutes from June 18th, 2013. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Domingo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Donovan. Do I have any errors, corrections? Mrs. Donovan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not really, I guess it's more of a typo more than anything else. The third paragraph under agenda item number 2, perhaps it should be of rather than off.
Where?
Sorry,
Third
so Joe
word in.
Congdon off High Street thanked everyone.
Oh, right.
Joe Congdon of High Street.
One too many Fs. You know what, I'm correcting Melissa Conyers' name also, so I'll fix that. Melissa Conyers actually spelled M-E-L-Y, as Mrs. Congdon pointed out.
Oh, okay.
So I'll fix that one at the same time.
That's fine. Thank you
Yeah.
very much, Max. Thank you, Madam Chair. That is all.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor? Abstains? All right, so we have 2 abstentions, 5 in favor. So the minutes pass. Moving on to Chairwoman's announcements. This evening I do have an announcement that I would like to, we have 2 new members this evening, and I just wanted to make a few announcements to the public and explain to the public. As members of the school committee, we are school committee members while we're up here at the dais and at any function that we're invited to as a school committee member. Other than that, I know in the past there's been questions whether we can volunteer in schools and do regular things as parents. And yes, we can volunteer. We are parents when we're not up here. So you can volunteer at any building you wish to volunteer in. We have children in the buildings. I don't, but I do volunteer my time to one of the buildings every year. So if you want to volunteer, you may. But we cannot use our powers as school committee members anywhere but up here or in subcommittee meetings. So you do need to sign in. You need to, if you have any questions or anything, everything would go through the superintendent. I also wanted to, I don't normally speak, but there's been some chatter going around about people being up here on the dais and leading the meetings when their children are not in the public system. My children are not in the public system. I have a husband who works in the public system, and I am a taxpayer of the town. I chose to put my children in private Catholic schools because I have a very strong Catholic belief and religion. And if this is a concern to the public, I would ask the public to speak to me personally and talk with me and see why that I don't have them. It has nothing to do with the public school system. It has to do with my beliefs, my Christian beliefs. And my children go to Trinity. I have 2 at Trinity Catholic Academy, which uses the school system food service and transportation. And I have 1 daughter who will be starting 11th grade at Marionopolis Preparatory School in Thompson, Connecticut. And I also have one of my children is in the need of use of special education, so she is involved with the special education here in the public town, and we utilize that. So I just would like people to know that, you know, I spend a lot of time up here, and I don't think it should make a difference whether my children go to the school system or not. I still put every bit of my heart into this. I have for the last 8 years, and it'll remain that way. So if there's anybody who has any discussion or any concern of that, I just ask that you contact me, call me, and we'll have a nice little discussion about that. But I do know that there was chitter-chatter about that, and I just wanted to make this small statement this evening. So moving on, we have reports of the representative of the Student Advisory Committee. Those will not start until school starts in September. And then we have the school committee reports. We do not have subcommittees at this time, but we do have some subcommittees that had some meetings before the end of this school year. So I believe, Mrs. Donovan, do you have a report?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. My report is relative to the curriculum subcommittee. Our subcommittee met on Monday, June 24th at 7 p.m. Present was myself and alternate member Mrs. McLaughlin. Absent/unexcused were Drs. Domingo and O'Leary. Also present was our ELL director, Dr. Jordan, and citizen member Jill Congdon. The purpose of the meeting was to review a proposal set forth by Dr. Jordan relative to changes or proposed changes, recommended changes to our ELL program starting in the fall. First of all, the thing that she did was give us a summary of the Massachusetts state laws relative to ELL and the things that a school system can and cannot do. One thing that the law was very clear about is that our ELL learners are required to have at least 2.5 hours of ELL learning per day, and it can go up to a full day, but it has to have a minimum of 2.5 hours. One of the things that we had talked about at our previous meeting to that was seeing if there was a way that we could have our students just strictly learn the language rather than bringing other areas of curriculum, get their language skills under wraps first. However, the law is clear that we're not able to do that. There does have to exist other parts of the curriculum, specifically math and science, that also has to be brought into that ELA learning time. So she went over that part with us and also gave us 2 different scenarios of what would be best for our kids next school year, starting in the fall. Of the 2 scenarios that she described, the second one is the most preferred. There has been no definite discussion on whether or not this will in fact be the case come the beginning of the school year. However, what we were looking to do is have one ELL teacher at each elementary school that would service our kids in grades 3 through 5. We're finding that kids who are coming into our system in the 1st and 2nd grade, they're catching on very, very quickly with ELL, and they really require little to no support. They're assimilating right away, and they're doing very well, and they're taking off. However, kids that are coming to us from 3rd grade, that seems to be where the language is becoming more difficult for them and they require more support. So we would be looking to specifically target and service our 3 to 5th graders at each of those elementary schools. At our middle school level, we would like to have 1 ELL teacher per grade level and also have a teacher at the high school. At the middle high school level, we want to target our students who are very low proficient. And those are the ones that we will be targeting, and then give them the language that they need, but in addition to that, also require a dedicated math and science, where we will actually have math teachers and science teachers from the school that will co-teach, co-instruct, and work side by side with the ESL teachers and the ELL teachers to really make sure that our kids get the language part that they need, but then we also fulfill our requirement for dedicated math and dedicated science. So again, nothing like that is set in stone. That was just a proposal and step 1 of the process, and our meeting adjourned at 8 p.m. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. And Mrs. McLaughlin, did you have a community meeting?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. On June 19th, there was a meeting, a district-wide parent forum meeting that was held here at the old Southbridge High School in the auditorium. About a dozen parents attended that meeting. There were about a dozen attendees at that meeting. And the purpose of the meeting was to recap the findings of the parent forum, the 9 parent forums that were held earlier in the year, to present the report and to answer any questions, and to in fact show how the concerns that were relayed at those forums were translated into action for the coming school year. I think it was successful, though it was not particularly well attended, but it was a successful evening, and I appreciate everybody that turned out for it. In addition, there were some questions raised at the time that Mrs. Donovan and I did not have answers for. We've since gotten those answers and have followed up with the people that asked the questions. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And Dr. Domingo, did you have budget, or no, that was before? Did you have any budgets between the last meeting and now?
No report, nothing's good.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. So moving on, we have presentations. We have one presentation this evening on the district-wide copiers by Mr. Roland Gabry, our Director of Operations. Mr. Gabry?
Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to welcome the 2 new members of the school committee, Ms. Quinney and Ms. Congdon, and I hope your service on the board is very rewarding, as it well is to these people that are sitting on the board at this point in time. When I was appointed Director of Operations, I'm in charge of IT, maintenance, food service, and transportation. One of the charges that Mr. Nemberkow gave me was to make sure that we look at every single piece to find out if there's cost savings available for any one of these specific departments. One of the most glaring parts that we found was in terms of paper usage. We have a paper inventory now, and we also wanted to analyze what our operations were in terms of those things that were costing us a lot of money. What we looked at was the copiers, the printers, and the paper usage. So I got together with a gentleman sitting in the back of the room, Mr. Dennis Antonopoulos, who was our RICO representative. Currently we have RICO copiers in every building, and he came through with a proposal which is in front of you at this point in time. We're trying to find ways to save money. We can use that money in other avenues of the district, and this is just one of the things that we're trying to do. We'll be looking at all departments in terms of how we can save money in all of these departments. Okay. So we sat as an IT group, the four members of the IT group, myself and Mr. Antonopoulos, and we found that there was going to be appreciable savings by doing certain things in, let's see if we can get this working. And you see in front of you the proposal for document printing and solutions. And I would request that the school committee allows Mr. Antonopoulos to speak if necessary for technical questions, if that's okay, Ms. Woodruff. Thank you. On the second page, after the title page, you'll see the RICO difference. As I said, RICO has been our copier company for years now, and we're very happy with their service and the product that they have available to us. So he made a presentation to us, and on June 14th to the IT people. And the project objective, as you can see, is the objective of this project is to provide Southbridge school systems with the ability to use and authentication, to track all print and copy, utilize customized rules and routing technology, and follow you printing. Right now, we have various printers in different schools. We are spending an enormous amount of money with the printing costs, not only in terms of cartridges, we're also in terms of paper and wasting a lot of paper as well as print cartridges that we go through, and you'll see this all printed out accordingly. Equitrack is a group that is, or it's a software that's basically hundreds of organizations have used. What it does is set and enforce print copy quotas. It allocates output costs, it reduces costs, and you learn exactly how printers and copiers are being used, and you reduce the equipment downtime. Okay? The program itself is pretty much set up in terms of our current situation. Right now we have 21 RICO copiers in terms of their use. We have approximately 120 to 130 printers. There's no printer copy tracking system in place at this time, and the total cost to support this is almost $10,000 a month. So we looked at that, and getting together with Mr. Antonopoulos, they made a recommended solution to this product, or to this process, in which we were to upgrade every copier to a brand new copier. All right, we'd take the old copiers, they would be traded in, brand new copiers would be in place, and they'd be uniform in every single school. If you walk to Charlton Street or West Street or any one of the schools, you'd see the same copier in the same format to use the copier. All right. We'd have 5 print servers with software. We'd have 20 embedded RICO copiers in place. Every single user in the district would have a PIN authorization. Okay. Follow you printing. What does that mean? Basically, you could walk around the building. If one printer is being, or one copier is being used, you can go to another copier, use that as a copier for your printing, because everything goes in the SkyDrive, and it's queued there, so you can go to any single printer, or any single copier. Rules-based printing, we could set up any rules we want, and they can be as restrictive as we wanted to, based on what we see in terms of usage. Mobile printing capabilities, which means you can go to any one of the printers and use them. You can even get them involved in terms of your cell phones, iPads, etc. The services are excellent. We've been using them for years. They also provide a 5-year software maintenance and support. Not many people do that at this point in time. The total cost for the upgrades would be $7,220 a month. So your net savings is $2,762 a month, not including paper, printer cartridges, and other costs that are associated with it. And you'll see this breakdown later on in the next slides. All right. Now what these copiers will do, they'll print and scan, installation by the RICO Technical Services. They have power filters to minimize surface calls, and these are the state-of-the-art new machines, so we're hoping, and I asked Mr. Antonopoulos to make sure that these don't break down, and that's what he said, they won't break down as much as the other ones did. Maximize equipment performance and protect you from acts of God, which is basically what we've had in the past couple of days with the lightning and so forth. Java for full implementation of the Equitrack software, which will be monitored by the IT department. Hard drive override and hard drive encryption. RICO service contract includes all parts and labor. Okay? And what we're looking at is the savings immediately. The black and white images will basically cost us 0.002 cents per copy. Right now we're at 0.005, and we'll show you a breakdown on that and the savings. Color images will be at 0.4 or 4 cents a copy. Equitrack itself is going to be instituted here so that we can track everything, and it will do the follow you printing. You'll have a detailed statement of work, which means we'll know what user is doing what. So in some cases, if we have an end user using 5,000 copies and someone in the same grade level doing 1,000 copies, and we're seeing results with 1,000, and we're seeing 5,000 used by somebody else, we're looking at somebody overusing it for papering the classroom to death, pretty much. And we're trying to get away from that. Okay? All terms and conditions contained in this proposal are subject to final approval by the RICO Corporation. And as I said, we have the contract with RICO at this point in time. There would be no need to rebid it. All we'd have to do is go to a statement of understanding with the company, and the process would then be instituted, and we could start the replacement of the machines and institute the Equitrack system and the follow-you printing. Okay. All right. Let me get out of here. Any questions anyone has?
Is anyone up here? Anyone with questions? Dr. D'Amico?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Giving, current situation lists approximately 120, 130 printers, and I don't see them in recommended solution. Can you explain what happens to the rest of the printers?
Most of the printers that you see that are listed that we can keep track of do have counters on them. Some of the other printers don't. They're smaller printers that we bought. They're very economical, but they keep breaking down. And as they fail, we're not replacing them. So some of that 120 printers are small printers that were used in the middle school and some of the elementary schools. And we find that they're very costly to replace, so it's not worth to replace them. What you're seeing on this last page, and I'll bring up a copy, but the last page is basically showing you that the acronyms for the MFP and the PCC, which you saw in the presentation, is a multifunction product, and a print and copy controller is the PCC. Some of the soft costs, new machines are more energy efficient, staff productivity increases. Double-siding printing will save time and money. So we can default machines to do double-siding printing instead of printing a single copy, just like your proposal is double-sided. It saves a ton of money. Okay? We'll save on printing walkaways, We have printers, we have printing jobs disappear because people pick up a lot of stuff and they walk with them, and then they're not theirs and they throw them away. And we're seeing a ton of material in waste baskets and also in recycling bins. We'll reduce paper usage, and we're going to track that also, and we'll be accounting of the usage by those end users, those people using the printers. Using the copiers. Just some statistics.
I'm sorry.
If I can get back to my
Sure,
question,
go right ahead,
I
Dr.
wasn't
D'Amico.
quite done.
She has a few
Okay.
more questions.
So if you total the entire cost of either current or proposed, together with the paper that we go through, what is the current situation and what is the predicted one upon this? The total cost for all the printing expenses?
The total cost will be, in terms of the jobs themselves, in terms of the copiers, right now it's going to be $7,200 a month.
And how much is the paper costing us a month?
Well, we go through approximately 1,000 cases of paper a year. So that's about almost 5 million copies. So the cost of a case of paper is almost $42 per case. All right, so if we reduce the cost of that, we don't know what that cost savings will be until we finally see it at year end or even on monthly, and we see the reduction in that cost.
And the last part, are the cartridges and ink and toner all included in the support for the copying machines, or is that
No, they're all included.
additional?
They're all included.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Toner, even, I think I've talked them into staples too.
Thank
Toner,
you.
staples, and service contract is included for all of the copiers.
Thank you. Is there anyone else with any questions right now? Dr. O'Leary?
Thank you, Mr. Gabriel. So I'm not sure if I didn't understand as well as Dr. D'Amico did, but just to me, so apples are apples, the same costs that you're saying, total cost to support all printing devices up top at $99.82, that we're using the same parameters for the savings at $7,200 something, right? Is that what you're saying? That, we're including all the costs that are included up here are the same as down here? It just doesn't seem that. Total cost to support all printing devices would be I would think, the toner, the ink, the paper, all that. And if it's not included in the bottom, which I think you said it wasn't.
Well, we're looking at just copier costs in terms of the $9,900 versus the $2,000 or that 7,000 copier savings, okay? Our savings is $2,700, but that's just for copiers. The printers and all the other cartridges that go along with those, there'll be an additional savings there also, because we won't be using the printers as much. The printers will be basically almost offline. We'll be having dedicated printer usage.
Yeah, I understand that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
And the last is, you said they've been our copier folks for a while now, and I don't have any concerns about that. I'm sure the quality of everything they do is wonderful, but you said something about bidding. It doesn't go out to bid, or should we, or have we, do we know?
Well, because we already have a RICO contract, all it is a rewrite of the contract that we have in existence at this point in time with RICO, with their 20 copiers that they have 21 copiers that they have in existence at this point in time. All they're doing is proposing a change in that and reducing the cost to us on a monthly basis.
I guess I would defer that question maybe to the superintendent. Buzz, do you understand what I'm asking?
Could you repeat your question again? I just want to be clear.
Geez, no, I'm forgetting it myself. Dang. It'll come back to me.
Okay.
Has it been out to bid is my question. Is it something that we should do? Is it a contract that is just renewed, or is it, I'm sorry, it's so loud. Is it some, I'm just wondering about the competitive nature of things.
Every school district I've worked in, copiers, printers, toners has become an issue that it's almost humorous when I think about it. It's an emotional issue at the schools, and when I came here, the director of finance and operations told Nathan and so on that you're only allowed to have one toner per school, and the teachers would be waiting for toners when we went through there. So I spent more time dealing with copiers and toners and quality than I could imagine. And the last district I was in, I did the same exact thing. Was let's look at the contract, revise it, and can we save money? And so we put all new copiers and risographs in the schools. But I didn't realize how many pack rats there were in the school system until we did, and I use that in a friendly term. Hoarders, I guess, might be a better term. And so we sent one of our paras out to count reams of paper, and we discovered hundreds of boxes of paper stored around the school system that nobody had a track of. And we're sitting ordering additional stuff. So when you're dealing in a school setting, paper, copiers, toners are a regular and a very large cost. And I knew from when I was in Brockton, that we saved tens of thousands of dollars there because we had a lot more students by going to new product, more efficiency, and in this particular contract providing toners and so on. Toners are between $50 and $100. And the other thing we found out was that some staff members, instead of making a copy from the internet and so on, printing one copy, then going over to the copier to make cheaper copies, they were printing 50 copies off of their printer. Things like that. So I also wanted to know who's using what. And I think it's important data for the principals and other people to find out what's happening over there. So now we'll have a code, so every person who uses it will have an input code, and then we'll get a regular report as often as we want from the company saying, at this school, here's how many thousands of copies we use, and here are the people who are using it. Just for information, because I think it's really important that kids not be subjected to worksheets on a regular basis. And then if we find that we're making copies of workbooks, then we need to budget in our textbook allowance and so on for consumable products that are used. So there's in our estimation, not estimation, our observation very quickly that there was thousands of dollars a month of waste going through this. And one of the goals that I said when I came here was efficiency. And so we're going to go through every single department during the course of this year and see and evaluate all the programs. And are they effective? Are they meeting their needs? We're going to look at the costs and then look at the ways we can save money, because every time we save money here, something else we can do that's very important. Paper is something that's not going to go away from schools. So this proposal makes absolutely perfect sense at this time. And the fact that we don't have to worry about sending one of our staff members around to replace toners in schools makes even more sense. We were joking with him. We called him Nathan One Toner for a while, because he said, well, I was told to only have one toner per site, and then he would have to go and install it. And people are standing around. So a long answer to your question is this is one of the first things I looked at. Paper in schools is, I showed a couple of school committee members my paper inventory. And so next thing we're doing is when somebody requests paper, we're going to have our maintenance go down there where we store a lot of it and then deliver it to them first and use up the old paper that we have first before we order any new stuff. And then we'll also be able to clear up some areas. And so I was just astounded when I got this is about 30 pages printout on how much paper we had.
Right.
And it's a whole lot easier to just order new stuff than going in and looking for it. And so we're trying to use technology and computerize all our inventories and so on like that. So it's a long process of getting there, but this is quick, and the teachers will like it because they'll have all new equipment. Stuff will work, and if it doesn't work, Rico will be right there to take care of it, and we don't have to utilize our staff changing toners, playing around with stuff. So I think cost-effective and efficient. So it's a win-win for us.
Does that answer?
What was that an explanation?
Are you all set, Dr. O'Leary? That answered your question, okay? All right, Mrs. Quinney?
Madam Chair, Mr. Gabriel, can you tell us how long our current RICO contract is, and does this extend that contract?
Dennis? This is Dennis Antonopoulos from RICO.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me. Currently, all the machines are on a service contract that includes parts, labor, toner. And there are various machines. Some are owned, and there's a few different leases that are currently there. The proposal is to upgrade all the machines, to put them on a new lease together, a blanket lease, blanket service contract, lowering the cost per page. And just to answer your question, the cost per page would be reduced down to .002 using the state of Mass contract. That includes parts, labor, and toner. So, like you had mentioned, the resources from the IT staff going out and putting toner in an inkjet printer on the 3rd floor in the high school. We're trying to migrate as much as we can out of those printers into the RICO multifunctionals at the lowest cost per page to reduce the cost. That's the goal. And to eliminate as many printers as possible. That includes toner. And that is included in this proposal.
So we currently have different lengths of contract leases for different machines, and this would bring all the machines to one contract lease.
Correct.
For how long?
This is a 5-year lease proposal.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mrs. Quinney?
That is it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
One of the other things, if I just might add, as Mr. Numbercow had alluded to, the toner itself and the cartridges will be able to monitor their usage as well as when they are needed to be replaced. Right now, it's a what I call a crapshoot. You don't know when a toner is going to be running out. Some people walk up to a machine, there's no toner, and there's an indicator that the toner is down. We'll have a central location that will feed back from every single machine that will tell an individual, whether it happens to be one of the IT people, that needs replacing toner. And you'll have it when it's down to, I think it's 20%, when you see the need for toner. So it won't be running out. We won't have teachers being frustrated that it's running out of toner. There's a paper jam. If there's a paper jam, we'll be notified immediately. That tech person will be able to go out there and fix it, rather than having people frustrated by coming in suing and finding out that this thing doesn't work because it's a paper jam. It'll be fixed as soon as possible. So there's a lot of positives to this because of the fact that we'll be able to monitor every copier in the system because they're all the same. Okay?
Any other questions?
Sure.
Mrs. Congdon?
Madam Chair to Mr. Gabry. What's the response time for maintenance when one of the machines goes down?
You can tell you better than I can.
Currently, overall, we average approximately 3.6, 3.8 hours. It's going to vary. That's an average response time for the hundreds and for the thousands of calls that we get all over, but it's less than 4 hours average. We guarantee 8 hours, but average less than 4.
Thank you.
Go
Just
ahead.
one other question through you, Madam Chair, to Mr. Gabry. So on this contract, each copy, the black and white image at 2 cents each and the color image at 4 cents each, is extra per copy than the monthly contract of $7,220,
No, that's
or included?
that cost is based on the current volume over all the schools.
Okay.
All the black and white times, it's not 2 pennies, it's 2/10 of a penny.
Okay.
It's a big difference, and it's virtually not free, but it's very, very extreme. It's extremely low. So, that cost that you see, the proposed cost, that takes the value of the proposed lease, 5-year lease, and all the volume times 002
Okay.
equals that cost.
Okay.
That's where we get that.
Great. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mrs. Donovan?
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you to Mr. Gabry. I want to go back to the first question that Dr. Domingo had. Our current situation shows that we have 21 RICO MFPs, or multifunctional products. We also have 100 to 130 printers.
Right.
The solution only shows an upgrade of 20 RICO MFPs. What happens to our existing 120 to 130 printers? Are we still using them, but they're not part of this new package?
First of all, the 21 copiers, we are not upgrading the copier in the SPED office because that's fairly recent, okay? Plus, the other thing is with these 120 printers, as I said before, a lot of them are lower-end printers. They were used in individual classrooms, and they are very costly to keep up. And as they go out of service because of parts or whatever, we're not replacing
You'll
them.
retire them?
On page 6, the 50 that I showed you that we can keep track of, that we can track the number of copies that come out of those printers, we're going to try to downsize that and get away from the printer. For example, a person sits in a classroom, the teacher. They want to print their worksheet or whatever they're going to do, their test, what we're finding is that they're not doing it on a copy machine. They send it to a printer, which is in a central location. You've been to the high school, teacher workshop, or work area. They send the print job there. They're supposed to get up, get the print job, and then go to the copier in that same room and make additional copies. Okay. What we're seeing is that the teacher is making 100 copies of that on the printer. Printer cartridges are very expensive. They're anywhere from $45 to $100 a piece, whereas now you're talking about anywhere from 5 to 10 cents per copy. Where now if you look at the copy machine at 0.002 cents per copy, we're saving a ton of money. And we can default, even if we use some of those printers, we can default those printers to say you cannot print 100 copies on them. They will have to automatically go to the copier. Good. Okay? We can also say we're going to double-side everything. Why to go single? Double-side, and the machine will know that. Okay, and the nice part about this proposal is the fact that we have the same machine in every building with the same keyboard, the same password usage, so you're not going to a different machine and say, how do I get into this one for printing? It's the same thing every single machine. Whether I'm in Charlton Street School, I'm at the high school, or I'm at Eastford Road, I can walk in with a print job on my SkyDrive, and I can print that job in the school specifically, just from my password, because all my print jobs are there. So we're not seeing waste of paper. We're not seeing this thing going away as seeing the cost increasing. And I see it increasing if we stay where we are. Right. So with the proposal, all we're doing is rewriting the contract to a 5-year term with the same company and doing all brand new machines and adding in service, toner, staples, everything.
Okay, thank you. My other question was relative to part of the software solution. 5 print servers with software, where will those servers be located, and who will maintain them?
Those be in individual schools. They'll be maintained by the school district. Those are all part of
So is that Nathan's oversight of something like that, or is that
It's Edward's.
Rico?
Edward's oversight. He'll be able to
Okay.
look at all of those.
Have we consulted with other school districts or other organizations that have used this Equitrack solution to make sure that it's...
I think I'll defer that to Dennis.
We personally do business with a lot of school systems, colleges and universities and school districts that we referenced when we talked to the IT team. And I'm not sure if they call them, but they can certainly feel free to call and talk to people who have utilized this program.
Okay, thank you.
But this is, just so you know, this is very common. This is kind of the directions that most school systems are going. And just to clarify, the software, it's using what's called rules and routing. So if a teacher wants to print 100 sheets to their desktop in their classroom, it'll pop up on their screen recommending that they divert that over to a different printer. It can even show how much they're going to save by doing that. And it actually can be forced to force that job if you choose to. And that's where your IT team, Ed's team, can program this any way they want, and they can do all the tracking and monitor it and make changes as they see fit based on usage. So we can divert by forcing it or just recommending it and let the teachers do the right thing, hopefully.
You brought an important point. I think it's key that we properly communicate this new system to our teachers so that they know that they have this option and the reason why we're doing this. Obviously, it's a wonderful endeavor, and I support it 100%, but we need to make sure that when they see that flag come up, you need to send this somewhere else, that they know the reason why and that they do, in fact, do that.
Oh, absolutely. And we're making this very user-friendly because in the high school where they have the swipe cards, we're making that an option. If they don't have swipe cards, then they can just put in a PIN code. That authenticates them with the username and password on the network. And that's really what the authentication does, is put them on the network. Now they're there, there's tracking. So if somebody scans something inappropriately to the wrong person, you can go back and find out who did that. If somebody's abusing their privileges for printing or copying, we can find out who did that, and they can take actions accordingly. So it's
In the tracking system, does the machine keep track of the number of copies only, or does it actually have a memory, so to speak, so that you can actually see what was actually printed or copied, or is it strictly X number of copies only? It's going to be
volume-based. Basically, it's going to go feed back to a tracking system that your IT team can monitor that's saying not only the machine is doing this, but basically they can look at each individual user and find out how much printing and copying and scanning they're doing. If that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you. I'm all set, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mrs. Congdon?
Through you, I'm not sure if this will be to the superintendent or to Mr. Gabry. Will we be offering a training?
Yes. We've incorporated it so far in our professional development for the 2 days that teachers come back. With a lot of initiatives that we're making changes in, they will have to be given the training for this and know how to use the system. And Mr. Antonopoulos will be part of that training and making sure that everybody's, and he's always around so that, if we need subsequent training for this, he'll be around in order to give it to the teachers so we can use this the most effective way as possible.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Gabry.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the report of the superintendent, Mr. Nebercall.
One of the questions I always get asked is that you'll be off for the summer, won't you? And I always chuckle and say that summertime is the busiest time for administration. May and June we're trying to close out 1 year and plan for the next year. And so our calendar for this year is that I've asked all of the administrators to take their vacation during July, and everybody be back ready for work on August 6th. And that way I have a full complement of staff rather than having staggered vacations. When you want to hire someone or there's a question you have, that person's on vacation, so we're doing all of that. And in August is the busiest month of the year for school administration. And I always, again, when parents question that, I say, well, when your child comes back to school in the last couple of days of August or the first day of September, the building is clean, staff has been hired, materials and supplies are available, the transportation system will probably work well, schedules are done, and all those things happen, and it's not by accident, it's by careful planning, and it's done over the summertime. And we have to hire people. People leave at the middle of summer, so it becomes very, very hectic. My expectations are very simple. I expect school to start in an organized, orderly, chaos-free. And if that happens the first day of school, the likelihood of that continuing for the next few weeks increases. If it doesn't start like that, the likelihood of chaos continues. And this has been in every school district I've worked in. This is one of the reasons I organized the calendar in such a way that we're all focused on making sure school starts in an organized, orderly, chaos-free environment. And that's the goal, and that's what my expectations are. And you will be sure to see me at every site the first few days of school. And one of the things I want to urge the parents to do is that if they're going to have children entering school or they have some relatives or family members moving into school, not to wait until the yellow school buses start running and say, oh, school starts. We need to have them register as early as possible. There'll be somebody at all the schools on a regular basis, and central services will be open from 8 to 3 during the summer hours, so we're ready and able. But I know in every place I've worked, there'll be parents coming in last minute demanding immediate registration and classes for their kid. And we're going to try to accommodate them as best as we can. But to be fair to all of our staff is if they know they're coming in the summertime, call up, bring the kid in, and we'll register them. And so we can have, the last thing I want to do is have 50 kids show up for first grade and no place to put them. I've also made arrangements that, that all the staffing, and I know that numbers are numbers and people will show up at different places at different times, so we'll be working on minimizing that. If we get all our act together, we can deal with that. But if we aren't organized and then 5, 10, 15 people show up, then it's going to be chaotic. So just want to say is that August is our busiest month, and the first 2 or 3 weeks of September until we get everything stabilized and regular. And after that, it's pretty good until Columbus Day, and then people start acting up again. So I'm really looking forward to the start of this coming year, since now that I've been here for 6 months, and I said after July 1, I own the issue. No longer previous administration did this, previous didn't do this, and so on. So it's ours, and the team will be put together. We'll make every effort to start school, and there'll be no excuses as to why this wasn't done. Transportation is critical. We want to make sure every kid has that done. We want to make sure all the teachers know exactly what their rooms are, what their thing is. And as we institute this new printing service, we have to give everybody the codes. So this clearly we're going to have a training session for all of that to occur. And there'll be a lot of other different things that will occur. So on the first day when in August, when everybody comes back, the second day, the Tuesday before school starts, I've asked all of the principals and administrators, when I address the staff, and when I mean staff, I want everyone there. I want all the teachers, paras, tutors, custodians, cafeteria workers, all present, because I want them to understand exactly as a system what we're doing. I learned a long time ago that teachers don't always live in the community, but custodians, food service workers, paras, they do. And when they go home and don't understand what's going on, we have miscommunication. So I want to ensure that everybody is there to hear our administrators talk about the plans for school year 13-14, and then look at and listen to my PowerPoint presentation as to where we're going as a school system, and everybody gets the same message at the same time. So it won't be filtered through a whole host of things. So I'm looking forward to having that happen at the high school on August 27th, I think. Yeah, August 27th, 28th, school starts, 26th, teachers report. So, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to school committee actions. A, vote to approve a donation to Charlton Street School by the Knights of Columbus in the amount of $150. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Domingo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. McLaughlin. Any discussion? Seeing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary? Yes. Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Dr. Domingo?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thanks, motion passes. B was to vote on the handbooks, but those are not ready yet, so we will be skipping over B and postponing that till they are ready to be voted upon. So next is our unfinished business. Under unfinished business, we have the second reading of the sexual harassment policy, file ACAB. Do I have a motion to waive the second reading?
So moved.
A motion by Dr. Domingo to waive the second reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Donovan. Is there any discussion? Mrs. McLaughlin, I know you were on policy with Mrs. Principe. Is there anything that you would like to speak towards this policy, or are you all set?
Again, I think Mrs. Principe said at the last meeting that we just went through this policy comprehensively to include definitions, unacceptable, examples of unacceptable conduct. We talked about student-to-student harassment, the investigative process, disciplinary action, the state and federal remedies that are available to people, just to bring our policy more up to date. And I just want to say on the last page of the policy, page 5 of 5, it says adopted June 2013. That's just kind of like a working date. The actual date, if it's approved tonight, would be July 2nd. That would be the only change we'd have to make.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion on that policy? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Dr. Domingo?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you, motion passes. Is there any other unfinished business this evening from anyone? Any other unfinished? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. The next regular school committee meeting determined and announced to be held in the council chambers. Right now, in the summertime, we don't hold many meetings. Many people are on vacation. I will come up with a date in August. I believe the second Tuesday in August may be a good time to meet. I will contact all the members to see if they're available, and I will set that date and have it posted on the Access channel and downstairs at the town hall. So I don't have a date as of yet. Any other new business this evening? August 13th. Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes, I just wanted to remind everybody that the Southbridge Recreation Department is sponsoring the summer playground program at West Street School again this year. The program will be for 6 to 12-year-old children, will run from 9 a.m. until 12 noon, Monday through Friday. It will be for 6 weeks, starting July 8th, and will run through August 16th. The program is free for Southbridge children. We'll also provide free lunch for participants. If you are interested, please contact the Recreation Department Director, Ron Plouffe, at 508-764-6469, or you may email him at rplouffe, P-L-O-U-F-F-E, at southbridgemass.org. And permission slips need to be completed, so you can stop in and drop those off at the, I want to say the Armory, the Southbridge Community Center at 153 Chestnut Street. I just want to remind everybody of that. May I ask a question?
Sure.
To the superintendent through you?
Sure.
Mr. Superintendent, you had mentioned during your speech schedules. When will the students at the middle high school receive their schedules for the next school year?
They were told their classes, so they're working on that, and what classes they were going to have, and they worked that out, and then my expectation is that in August they'll be receiving it. Right now we have lots of staff changes.
Yes, of course. Thank you for that. And lastly, I just want to thank everybody. I've had time to reflect on my year up here as a school committee member. At the last meeting, I didn't get an opportunity to thank my fellow school committee members, and also especially Mrs. Principe, who I worked with extensively on policy this year, and we covered quite a bit of territory. I wanted to thank her for her time in mentoring me in that regard. And I just want to say that it was an interesting year, one full of changes, and I'm looking forward to this committee and working with everybody here, everybody up here, to move forward. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone else this evening for new business? Mrs. Congdon?
Just an announcement. I was at the Jacob Edwards Library last night. They kicked off their summer reading program. And they also have a lot of the books available downstairs and upstairs that they've gotten together from our summer reading list that Karen Ryan created. So for parents, if you're looking for those summer reading books, the Jacob Edwards Library does have them. And they have a really good summer reading program that kicked off yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mrs. Quinny?
Madam Chair, moving forward, I was wondering if the committee would consider establishing a liaison position to the Southbridge Elementary Parent Advisory Council. And I was wondering if anybody had thoughts on that moving forward.
Sure, to answer that question, we would have to bring that up at the next meeting as part of the meeting to discuss it. And I can certainly do some homework and look into that to see how other districts do that. We've never had a liaison to the PAC before. I do know that the PAC does need some help to get up and moving and be a present part of our meetings and being active. So I believe that we will put that on the agenda. If it's not on our summer agenda, we'll certainly put it on the first school year agenda in September, and that'll give us plenty of time for you and I and Mrs. Culligan to look into that and do it the right way, and then we'll certainly put that on the agenda.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else for new business? Mrs. Donovan?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of things. Prior to the end of the school year, I was fortunate enough to be president of a bunch of activities that had taken place, mostly at the elementary school level. But I wanted to thank members of the Southbridge Optimist Club. They did a wonderful job over at Charlton Street School towards the end of the year, recognizing our young students. And they were students from all of our schools at the elementary level. All three schools were represented, as well as Trinity Catholic Academy. And they recognized kids for their excellence and their citizenship and their behavior and their academics. And they just sponsored a beautiful event with refreshments, and each child was received a certificate promoting and praising their accomplishments, good word, thank you, their accomplishments. And a lot of that was in the paper, but it was very special to see. Also, thanks to Karen Ryan for all the work that she did with our spelling bee. The West Street School and the Charlton Street School, they each had their own spelling bees, and we had winners from those in grades 3 through 5. And then at the recommendation of Mr. Nemberko, we had our first annual district bee, where both schools got to complete district-wide grades 3 through 5. I was present at all those events, and it was pretty intense, but those kids, they did a really nice job, and they all should be commended for their participation. The other thing was that I don't know if, I think this is something new that our district is doing, and I can't thank whoever is in charge of it enough. The President's Education Award for Outstanding Academic Excellence. We had students from the elementary level all the way up to our high school level receiving gold and silver certificates and letters from our President, Barack Obama, acknowledging them and praising them for their accomplishments as young educators and outstanding citizens. And that's a pretty great honor, and for all those kids that receive them, my warmest congratulations to you. We also had our Knights of Columbus. Many thanks to our members of the Knights of Columbus. They were at our schools towards the end of the school year doing barbecue lunches and cooking hot dogs and sandwiches and providing ice cream sandwiches for dessert. They really did a great job, and it was very nice to see that active community involvement that we're so looking for. I wanted to congratulate both Mrs. Congdon and Mrs. Quinney on their election and their seats up here. I congratulate both of you, and I look forward to working with you. Congratulations to our chair and to our vice chair. Again, I look forward to working with you as well as to the rest of our members that are here. Like Mrs. McLaughlin, I've just completed my first term, a very quick first term. It's amazing how quickly time flies. First year, that's right, not first term, you're right, thank you. First year, and I guess you really don't know what it really entails until you're in it. It's one thing to be an outsider looking in, but when you're sitting up here, it is a totally different ball game. It was an absolute learning experience for me. Curveballs come at you left and right when you least expect them. There's something else being thrown at you, and you need to know how to respond and to deal with that. I've learned that there's an awful lot of work that's done behind the scenes on the subcommittee level or in meetings with the superintendent or in other ways and other venues. It's not just coming here every other week and sitting up here. So I also learned that change is hard. We're all looking to make things better, but it doesn't happen overnight. Things have progressed in a certain way and have been established for a certain way, and you just can't come in here and change everything you see. So that's something that I take away, that you just keep plugging along and do the very best that you can. There are some things that I've learned that I need to accept that I cannot change, but I've also recognized that there are certain things that if I don't accept them, that I can change them. So that's what I'm going to continue doing, is to play my little role up here and do the very best that I can to serve our students, our kids. They come first, to support our teachers, to support our superintendent, to support each other. It's not just me up here or each of us as an individual member. We are a working board. Each one of us has very special gifts that we bring to the table, and I think our students and our district is very fortunate that we come together for each of us to offer what our strengths are to hopefully make a difference in the long run. I hope that we are able to move forward as far as the district is concerned in coming out of level 4. I know that will not happen overnight as well. That's a process, but I'm very confident and hopeful that we've begun the process, and I'm happy to be a part of that. And however long it takes, I know that it will happen. And I thank Mr. Nemberko for staying here and giving us the guidance that we need and the assistance that we need to help us on that role. One thing I'd like to propose for the future is maybe setting some goals. Since I've been here, I really haven't seen specific goals that we have given the superintendent, nor have the school committee itself set any goals that we would like to see done. Goals that are measurable, that are smart, that are attainable, that we can look at ourselves and say, you know, we did a good job. We can give ourselves our own report card and say, you know, we set out to do this. We maybe only got this far. We didn't make it all the way. But if we don't have a vision or a mission statement or some type of goal set for all of us, how do we know how good we're doing? So moving forward, if we could talk about that down the road, I think that would be very helpful. And that way the people out there know what it is we're trying to do. They don't have to guess and wonder, well, what are they doing? What are they doing? So I hope that we're able to accomplish that. So once again, thank you for my first year, and I look forward to my second year. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else for new business? Seeing none, our next agenda was executive session, but there will be no executive session this evening, so I need a motion for adjournment, please. Motion by Dr. O'Leary, seconded by Dr. Domingo. All in favor of adjournment, you could just raise hands. Thank you, and we'll see you in August.